Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode. Today, I want to talk about using a colonoscopy or endoscopy to helping with gut health, or what an alternative might be, and kind of the pros and cons of each. So, I know that an unhealthy gut can lead to insomnia, and I have talked about this in past episodes. In the podcast, it was episode 6. If you want to go and listen to 3 ways that an unhealthy gut leads to sleep problems. And the medical approach to assessing gut health is to do a colonoscopy or an endoscopy. I use the GI map instead, and I want to tell you why. So, the medical approach is a colonoscopy, and that is going to look at the physical structure of the lining of your colon. So, it's going to show if your gut lining is damaged and if there are polyps. And if they see polyps, then they might take a biopsy to see if they're cancerous. And so, this test will also screen for colon cancer. An endoscopy looks at the esophagus, stomach, and small intestine. And this test is used to diagnose celiac disease and look for ulcers and other causes of digestive symptoms. So these procedures can show if there's damage or disease in your digestive tract, but they don't show what's actually causing the damage. They will show what damage is already there, but they won't show if there are pathogens or other factors that might lead to damage in the future. So the medical system doesn't connect gut issues to sleep, even though there are multiple ways that an unhealthy gut can lead to insomnia. So the functional medicine approach is different. I use the GI map, this stands for gastrointestinal map, to assess my client's gut health. So it looks at 70 different species of gut flora, including pathogens such as parasites, H. pylori, and candida. And the GI map uses qPCR technology that looks at the DNA of these species. So it's directly testing for those pathogens by looking for their DNA. And so this is different than a breath test for H. pylori, for example, which is actually measuring a byproduct of the bacteria. So you can see how that can lead to false negatives. Now, H. pylori can also be diagnosed by an endoscopy, but a biopsy requires that the biopsy be taken from a site that has H. pylori on it. And H. pylori doesn't always colonize evenly in the stomach, so it can easily be missed if the biopsy didn't happen to get the spot where H. pylori is. So, this is why the GI map detects H. pylori in many cases where a breath test has been negative, or even an endoscopy, a biopsy has been negative. Now, the GI map also shows the amount of good bacteria in your gut, which is important because they make up to 90% of the transmitters, neurotransmitters that help us feel calm, relaxed, and sleepy. So, the good gut bacteria actually make dopamine and serotonin and GABA and melatonin. It's pretty crazy that we think of those as part of brain health, but most of them are made in the gut, in our gut brain. Now, the GI map is also gives us a lot more information. It's going to show if you have enough digestive enzymes to digest protein and fat. It looks at liver function. It looks at immune function in the gut, which is actually where up to 80% of our immune function is. It's looking at how much inflammation is there. It even has a marker for gluten sensitivity. So while it's not looking at the physical gut lining, I get an overall snapshot of gut health with these markers. Now, when we talk about using a colonoscopy or endoscopy versus a GI map, this is the difference. So I use a GI map to look for imbalances that are causing sleep issues. So pathogens, food sensitivities, liver dysfunction, depleted gut bacteria. A colonoscopy or endoscopy is not going to show any of these underlying health issues. And it's also different in how it's treated. So a gastrologist is going to treat gut issues very differently from a functional health coach. So let's say you're diagnosed with gastritis, which is inflammation of the lining of the stomach, for example. A doctor's either going to prescribe antibiotics for H. pylori if they find H. pylori, or they're going to prescribe drugs that reduce stomach acid. Now, antibiotics may kill the H. pylori temporarily, but they aren't going to make the gut healthy long term and ensure that H. pylori can't thrive in the future. Stomach acid blockers actually make the problem worse since H. pylori thrives with low stomach acid. And we need stomach acid in general to digest protein, which is where we get amino acids and minerals from the meat and protein that we eat. And it's crazy. I've actually had clients whose sleep and health issues started after taking antibiotics for H. pylori, not necessarily for the H. pylori itself. So sometimes this really affects people's health. Now, as a functional health coach, I don't diagnose anything specifically, and we actually don't need to because we aren't prescribing drugs. So I use supplements to deal with H. pylori and other pathogens, but I also help restore the lining of the gut and the stomach so that pathogens can't thrive there. It's all about making the environment in a place where the good guys thrive and the bad guys can't thrive. So I really focus on making the gut healthier so that your whole body is healthier and you can sleep normally. So, a great analogy for the GI map versus a colonoscopy to assess gut health is I want to compare it to your car engine light going on. So, you know something's wrong with the engine, or something's wrong if that light goes on, but you don't know what. So, you can pop the hood and look at the engine. You can take the engine apart and look, but unless there's something structurally wrong, you won't find the answer. So, this is pretty much what a colonoscopy endoscopy is looking. It's just looking at the engine. You can also turn the check engine light off. That's not going to make the problem go away, but that's the same thing as taking a drug to mask a symptom. It's just blunting that and ignoring it and forgetting that it happens. Instead, to know what's wrong, you have to look at the car diagnostics, right? You need to dig a little deeper. It could be the spark plugs or the airflow sensor, or it could be the gas cap being loose. The diagnostics are going to tell you what is causing the problem. Just like the GI map shows why the gut is damaged and what's sabotaging your sleep. Then you actually know what to correct so that the engine stays healthy. So if you've tried getting help from your doctor without success, or you know that the medical approach can't help you, we're here from you. So Deb and I at the Complete Sleep Solution, we use the GI map and other functional lab tests to pinpoint exactly why you can't sleep. Then we give you a plan to get your body back in balance, and we support you throughout the entire journey so you're guaranteed to get better. If you are interested in this, the first step is to book a free consultation to talk about what's going on with your sleep and what it looks like to work together so we can finally find the root cause of your insomnia and you can sleep better soon. And you can book that free consultation. You can find the link for that in the show notes. All right, I will talk to you next week.